Azure Data Factory Mapping Data Flow allows data engineers to transform the data at scale without writing code. In this video, we will have a quick demo to extract, transform and load the data using Mapping Data Flow. Hello everyone, myself Sarnendu. Let's start. Data Factory Mapping Data Flow is a visually designed code-free data transformation service which allows us to perform ETL, extract, transform and load. Using Mapping Data Flow, we can build data transformation logic as a series of transformation. As we can see, using Mapping Data Flow, we can perform series of transformation on the extracted input data and load the data into the destination. Mapping data flow can contain multiple source or input, but it has to contain at least one sink or destination. In our previous video, we have saw the chained activities of a pipeline. This chained activity can be multiple copy activities work sequentially or the combination of data flow and the copy activities. Here we will create one data flow activity which will execute this data flow job. For demo, we will create one data flow which will extract movie data from the storage account and it will perform two different series of transformation on those extracted data and subsequently it will load those data into the storage account and the Azure SQL database. Now let us see what kind of transformation are there in the mapping data flow. First let us see the category. These are multiple input output, schema modifier and the row modifier. Now let us see what are the transformation in each category. Using multiple input output transformation, we can join two stream, we can conditionally split a stream. Using schema modifier, we can create or derive a new column, we can perform select transformation, aggregate transformation on the input data. Using row modifier, we can filter data or sort the data. Now let us see the supported data source from the Azure. This can be Azure Blob Storage, Gen 1, Gen 2, Azure SQL Database and the Synapse. Now let us go to the demo. Now I have logged into the Azure portal and I have already created Azure Data Factory, Azure SQL Database and the storage account for this demo. Now let us check the source data in the storage account. This is our storage account. Let us go to the container. This storage account has two containers. One is movie and the another is the clean movie. This movie container contains the raw data, raw source data. This movie data contains total 6 columns and there is a lot of rows here. So this is our source data. Now let us check the another container. This is the container where we will be saving the clean movie data. So after the data flow gets executed, those transform data will be saved here. Now let us go to the SQL database. So here we have created movie database and this database contains the movie table. We have already created this table. In this table, we will be loading the transform data. Now let us go to the Azure Data Factory. In the Azure Data Factory instance, first let us check the link service. Here I have already created two link service. One is for the blob storage. Let us check this quickly. This link service connected to the storage account. Now let us check the connection. This connection is successful. So now let us check the link service for the SQL database. This link service connected to the server and to this movie database. Now let us test the connection. And this connection is also successful. So Data Factory already connected to the blob storage as well as to the SQL database. So now for the data flow, we need to create the dataset. So to create the dataset, we need to go to the author tab. In this author tab, there is datasets. Here you can see three dots. Here we need to click and click on this new dataset. First, we will be creating the source dataset from the blob storage. Let me search the blob storage. This is blob storage. As our source data is in CSV file, so we need to select the CSV format. Let us continue it. Let us give the proper name, source movie dataset. Now let us select the link service, Azure Blob link service. Here let us browse the file. This is the movie container. Now let us select the movie.csv. Now select first row as header because our source file contains the header in the first row. Now select OK to create the dataset. So in the dataset, we can preview the data. Let us preview it. Now we can see the source data here. This is movie.csv. This contains total 6 columns. Now let us create the sync dataset or the destination dataset. Here we will be loading data into two destinations. One is blob storage, another in the SQL database. Now let us create the sync dataset for the blob storage. So again we have to click here. new dataset, search with the blob, click on the blob storage and select the CSV format, continue. Here let us give the proper name. Rename this dataset as Sing Movie Blob dataset. Now let us click on the link service, Azure Blob link service. Here let us select the target container. Here we will be saving the transform data in the clean movie container. Let us select it. Now let us select this one, first row as header, because our target file should also contain header as the first row. Now let us click the OK to create the dataset. Now let us create the Sing dataset for the SQL database. So similarly, let us click here to create the dataset. Now let us search with the SQL, Azure SQL database. Let us rename it Azure SQL Sing dataset. Now let us click the link service, this Azure SQL DB link service. So now select the table, that is db.movie, and click OK to create the dataset. Now all the dataset is ready. Now let us create the data flow. So to create the data flow, we have to go here. Data flows, here we have 3 dots. Let us click here, new data flow. Let us rename it movie data flow. So before we continue, let us start the debugging session. So it will turn on the data flow debug. Let us click it. Now the cluster is getting ready for the data flow debugging session. So here we can see in the canvas, this is the data flow authoring canvas. Here we can see we are getting one option to add the data source. Add data source. Yes, see the data flow debugging session is now ready. Okay, now let us add the source. Here we need to click. Here we need to click add source. Let us rename it as movies. Here in the source setting, here by default the source data type is the dataset. Now let us select the source data set. This is our source movie dataset. Let us select it. Now let us go to the source option. We will not be modifying any default values here. Now let us go to the projection. This projection tab contains the schema of the source file, that is the column name, data type and the format itself. Here we can modify the data type. Now it is giving the several data type. Next is the optimize. Here we can optimize the partitioning. Now let us go to the inspect. Inspect tab basically the read-only format of the schema. This is column name, this is the data type in the specific order. Now let us preview the data. So to preview the data, our data flow debug session should be started. So now it is already turned on. I have already started the session. I can preview the data by clicking this refresh option. Here it is now fetching the data. Now we can see the data. So actually what happened in between? Data Factory send the data flow as a package to the Spark cluster. Spark cluster process the package and Data Factory feeds the data from the cluster. Now that data is shown here. This is nothing but our source data. Here in the source data, in the year column we can see some negative values, minus 1980. So we need to filter those data. So this is not the valid year, right? So we need to filter this data. Now, so to filter the data, we need to create one transformation on it. In each of the transformation, we will get one plus sign. Let us click it. Here we will get the several transformation option. So see under the row modifier, we have the filter option. Let us click it. Let us rename it to the filter here. So to filter the row, we have to provide the filter criteria. Here we have to provide this criteria. Before that, let us see the data type of the year. You see the data type of year is string. So we need to convert it to integer. Now let us select it to enter the filter criteria. Here I am clicking the open expression builder. This is the open expression builder. Under this text box, I am clicking this one. Now this window is open. Here we have to filter by year. This is string. Let me convert it into integer. So now we have converted the data type of year column to the integer. Here we will be getting data of year column value greater than 0. Year is greater than 0. So we will be getting the data of year column value greater than 0. Here in the data flow expression builder, we have option to preview the data. We have to click the refresh option here. But we will be refreshing the data in few seconds. Let us save and finish it. So here we have implemented the filter criteria. Now let us click on the inspect tab. In the inspect tab we can see it is saying we have used the filter criteria. This one, we have used the filter criteria on the year column. Now let us preview the data here. Now let us click on the refresh. So now Data Factory is sending the data flow as a package to the Spark cluster. Spark cluster will process the data. Now Data Factory is fetching the data from the cluster. Okay, this is our transform data. That means filter transformation is applied on this source data. Here we can see, if we click this option, this is the sorting option, that negative year value is no longer available here. That means those data were filtered out. Data of having year value negative now is filtered out, and it has the total 6 columns. Now we want to save only data of 3 columns to the blob storage. We will be saving movie, year and the rating. So out of 6 columns, we will be only selecting 3 columns to save the data in the blob storage. Now let us select one more transformation to select this 3 column. We have to select this select transformation under the schema modifier. Now select this one, select transformation. Here in this select transformation, let us rename it select 3 columns. Here input column is here. So here we need to keep only movie, year and rating. So we will be removing the other column. Now let us select the title, genres and the Rotten Tomato. Here once we select it, we have to select the delete. We have to delete these. Now only these 3 columns remains. Now let us see the inspect tab. Here we see it is saying there is no column is updated. We have dropped 3 columns. Dropped is 3. We have just deleted. Unchanged 3. These are unchanged. Movie, year and rating. We can just check the data preview once. Now see, we have only 3 columns. So till now we have filtered out those data having year column value negative, and we have only selected here 3 columns. Now let us save this data in the blob storage. To save the data in the destination, we have to select this transformation. In the destination, sync transformation. So now let us select the sync. So here in the sync, let us rename it sync blob. Here we have select the data set. Here we have to select sync movie blob data set. So this will be saving this data to the respective clean movie container. Now let us go to the mapping section. This mapping section contains the auto mapping. The fields are auto mapped. Now let us select it. It will show these are the input column and this will be the name of the output column in the blob storage. Now our data flow is ready. So let us create one pipeline to debug it. Let us give the name as the movie pipeline. Here we need to select the data flow activity. Here in the setting tab, we have to select the data flow, movie data flow. So this is the cluster that will basically execute our data flow. Now let us validate the pipeline. This pipeline is validated, there is no error. Now let us debug it. Now the data flow processing is in progress. You can see this is in progress status. Type is data flow. Yeah, now pipeline is succeeded, right? Oh yeah, this is succeeded and it took 19 seconds. Now let us check the storage, data storage. This is our clean movie container. So now let us see. Yeah, you see. So there are two files. One is success, another is the partition file. Part hyphen. This is the partition file. Spark cluster has created this partition file. So here you can see there is 3 columns: movie, year and rating. In the data flow, if you see here we have selected only 3 columns, right? Movie, year and the rating. So this is where we have selected only 3 columns. So that is why we can see movie, year and rating column in this our transform data. So this is how data flow extra transform and load the data in the destination. Now you can see this file is created by the Spark cluster and this name is not the user friendly, right? So if you want to give your own name, that also you can do. So for that, let us go to the data flow. Here in the settings section, we can choose file name option. In the file name option, we can give the output to a single file. So before that, what we need to do, it is asking output to a single file requires single partition to be selected by the partition type. These settings may impact the performance and should be used for the smaller dataset. For the larger dataset, we should avoid this option because that may cause the out of memory error in the cluster. So now let us go to the optimize tab. Here as we will be creating single file, so we need to create also single partition. So we are directing to this cluster to create a single partition out of those transform data. So we have to select the single partition option. Okay, now let us go to the setting. Here we have to give a name. Here we can give our own name now, movie details.csv. So data flow now will create a file named after movie details.csv. Now let us debug the pipeline again. I am clicking on the debug. Now it is in progress. Now it is succeeded. Now let us see the clean movie data. Here see, it is already created movie details.csv. Now let us see the data here. Yes, see 3 columns and all the rows. Okay, now let us go to the data flow. Here we have to check the details. Click on this. Here see, this is one flow of transformation. Here this is the sync name, sync block. This is success. This took 1 second, 295 millisecond, and it has rated 9122 rows. This is our source data. The source data actually contains 9125, and it has total 6 column and it has only one partition. Next is the filter transformation. Total rows calculated is 9122, but in the source it was 9125. Basically those negative ER values were filtered there in the filter transformation. Here in the select transformation we have removed 3 columns and kept the 3 columns. Now this is showing dropped 3 columns, updated 3 columns, and total final column is 3 and the partition is 1. Okay, this is the sync. So here also it has created the one partition, right? So we have instructed the Spark cluster to create the single partition, to create the single file, right? Now let us go to the data flow to create another transformation to save the data into the SQL database. Now let us create a branch. Let us create the new branch. What will happen? Whatever data will be available here, same data will also be available here also. So here, this is one stream, this is also the another stream. Here, out of this filtered here data, we will be creating another transformation. We will be creating one derived column transformation. We will be creating another column out of the existing data set. So here in the derived transformation, just rename it to the derived feedback column. We will be creating a feedback column here. Let us give the new column name here. So this new column feedback will be created based on the existing column value. This is our rating column. Okay. So here what we will do, we will creating a new column out of this rating column. The rating column value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Here let us implement the logic like this. If the rating column contains the value greater than 5, then feedback column will hold the value of very good. If the rating value is less than equal to 5, then this feedback column will hold the value of good. See, the rating column is the string type, right? So we have first converted it to the integer. So based on the rating column value, feedback column will either hold very good or good. Now let us save and finish. Here let us go to the inspect tab. Inspect tab we can see one new column. We have created one new column, right? This is the derived column transformation. New column is feedback, and it is based on the rating column. This is our existing rating column. New column named feedback is created based on the existing rating column. Now let us preview the data. Here one new column is created, right? In the preview, see, feedback is basically either very good or good. This is a new column created based on the value of the rating column. Now let us load this data into the SQL database. So to load the data, we need to select the sync transformation, right? Let us click on the sync. We have to rename it as sync SQL. Here, let us select the dataset as the SQL sync dataset. Now let us see the settings tab. In the settings tab, we are basically selecting the allow insert, as we will be just inserting the data. Like we have the other update method like delete, upsert and the update. So we are keeping all the existing default values. Now let us go to the mapping tab. So in the mapping tab, let us deselect the auto mapping. Now let us see what are the input column and the output column. Movie, year, rating and feedback. These columns are coming from the data flow and these are basically part of the database. So value of this column will be mapped accordingly. Now let us go to the inspect tab. Here we have only 4 columns, right? Here it is saying we have updated 2 columns, we have dropped 3 columns. 2 columns remain unchanged. Total 4 columns will be saved into the database. Now let us preview the data. Now here we are getting total 4 columns, right? Movie, year, rating and feedback. This will be loaded into the SQL database. Okay, now before running this data flow, let us check the destinations. Now let us go to the MovieDB database. Now let us check the data once. There should be no data. There is no data. Now let us delete this one. This will be created again. Now let us validate the pipeline. No errors found. Now let us debug it. Now this data flow will load the data in the blob storage as well in the SQL database. Now this is in progress. Yeah, now it is success. It took total 18 seconds. So before coming to these details, let us check the database. Now let us select this query to select the data. Here see, the data has been inserted, right? This is the movie year rating and feedback column. Very good, good. These are all the data coming from the data flow. Data factory has inserted the or loaded the data in the SQL database. This is the data we also saw in the data preview section of the data flow. Now let us check the same again in the clean movie container. This is also inserted now. You can check it here. Yeah, this is the 3 column. We have total rows here. Now let us go to the pipeline. Here let us check the run details. So here are two sync. One is sync blob, another is the sync SQL. So both sync has written 9122 rows. Okay, now let us check how many rows has inserted here. So see, number of rows has been inserted here is 9122. This is for the SQL transformation, right? So this is source, this is source, this is total source data, this is filtered data. Next, we are basically creating a derived column, derived feedback column. In the feedback column, we have created one new column, right? So in the sync, what happened? So now we have total 4 columns, right? So total 9122 columns have been inserted into the SQL database. This is the sync processing time. So in this demo, we saw how data flow extract the data from the source and perform the series of transformation on the extracted data and subsequently load that data in the destination like SQL database or the blob storage. Hope this video helps you. Thanks for watching.